Well, I was now indebted to the miners of Cooktown for the great privilege of adding a mite to a worthy cause, and to Judge Chester all the town was indebted for a general good time. The matter standing so, I sailed on June 6, 1897, heading away for the north as before. Arrived at a very inviting anchorage about sundown the 7th. I came to for the night abreast the Claremont lightship. This was the only time throughout the passage of the Barrier Reef Channel that the Spray anchored, except at Port Denison and at Endeavour River. On the very night following this, however, the 8th, I regretted keenly for an instant that I had not anchored before dark, as I might have done easily under the lee of a coral reef. It happened in this way. The Spray had just passed M Reef lightship and left the light dipping astern, when, going at full speed, with sheets off, she hit the M Reef itself on the north end, where I expected to see a beacon. She swung off quickly on her heel, however, and with one more bound on a swell, cut across the shoal point so quickly that I hardly knew how it was done. The beacon wasn't there, at least I didn't see it. I hadn't time to look for it after she struck, and certainly it didn't much matter then whether I saw it or not. But this gave her a fine departure for Cape Grenville, the next point ahead. I saw the ugly boulders under the sloop's keel as she flashed over them, and I made a mental note of it that the letter M, for which the reef was named, was the 13th one in our alphabet, and that 13, as noted years before, was still my lucky number. The natives of Cape Grenville are notoriously bad, and I was advised to give them the go-by. Accordingly, from M Reef, I steered outside of the adjacent islands to be on the safe side. Skipping along now, the Spray passed Home Island, off the pitch of the Cape, soon after midnight, and squared away on a westerly course. A short time later, she fell in with a steamer bound south, groping her way in the dark and making the night dismal with her own black smoke. From Home Island I made for Sunday Island, and bringing that abeam, shortened sail, not wishing to make Bird Island farther along before daylight, the wind being still fresh and the islands being low with dangers about them. Wednesday, June 9, 1897. At daylight, Bird Island was dead ahead, distant 2.5 miles, which I considered near enough. A strong current was pressing the sloop forward, I did not shorten sail too soon in the night. The first and only Australian canoe seen on the voyage was encountered here, standing from the mainland, with a rag of sail set, bound for this island. A long, slim fish that leapt on board in the night was found on deck this morning. I had it for breakfast. The spry chap was no larger around than a herring, which it resembled in every respect, except that it was 3 times as long. But that was so much the better, for I am rather fond of fresh herring anyway. A great number of fisher birds were about this day, which was one of the pleasantest on God's earth. The spray, dancing over the waves, entered Albany Pass as the sun drew low in the west over the hills of Australia. At 7:30 p.m, the spray, now through the pass, came to anchor in a cove in the mainland, near a pearl fisherman called the Tarawa, which was at anchor, her captain from the deck of his vessel directing me to a berth. This done, he at once came on board to clasp hands. The Tarawa was a Californian, and Captain Jones, her master, was an American. On the following morning, Captain Jones brought on board 2 pairs of exquisite pearl shells, the most perfect ones I ever saw. They were probably the best he had, for Jones was the heart-yearn of a sailor. He assured me that if I would remain a few hours longer, some friends from Somerset nearby would pay us all a visit, and one of the crew, sorting shells on deck, guessed they would. The mate guessed so too. The friends came, as even the second mate and cook had guessed they would. They were Mr. Jardine, stockman, famous throughout the land, and his family. Mrs. Jardine was the niece of King Malietoa, and cousin to the beautiful Faamu-Sami, who visited the spray at Apia. Mr. Jardine was himself a fine specimen of a Scotsman. With his little family about him, he was content to live in this remote place, accumulating the comforts of life. The fact of the Tarawa having been built in America accounted for the crew, Boy Jim and all, being such good guessers. Strangely enough, though, Captain Jones himself, the only American aboard, was never heard to guess at all.